to also at least slightly engage you and entertain you at least a little bit. That's part of our goal. A few folks I'd like to introduce here this evening is Margaret Warner. She is our school board president. Margaret, she can't stand up because she broke her foot kicking a desk. No, that's totally not true. Connie New Year's our vice president right next to her. And next to Connie is Sharon Scott. And to her right is Amy Zurin. And there are multiple staff members and administrators here. Thank you very much for coming. And most importantly, thank you, community members, for coming. Tonight we'll cover just some basics. And there are so many things, it was difficult to decide, well, what do we talk about? What do we encapsulate in the state of the schools? So this is the best shot at hitting what I think are the highlights, what I think you would want to know. And then at the end, we'll open it up for any questions that you may have. So tonight, Mayor Bondi from the city of here, and he will address everyone for a few minutes. We'll talk about communications, facility improvements, safety in our schools, academic achievement. Obviously, that's our primary mission as a school district. Our community service efforts, and how are we from a financial perspective. So I'd like to introduce Mayor Bondi, and there's some interesting things you may or may not know about Mr. Bondi. He is beginning his 48th year as a part-time employee of the city of Willoughby-Eastlake. I think you started when you were 7 or 8. Is that
Negative.
He's the longest-serving elected official and longest-serving mayor in the history of the city, and he served the city second recreation director and served as president of the city council for 5 years. What people may not know is that he attended schools here. He graduated from John Carroll and began teaching at Willoughby Junior High. He taught math and later worked in special education. Got his master's degree from John Carroll and his PhD from CSU. He served as a high school principal for many years, and that's why I think Mayor Bondi understands schools and understands the city government. We are excited to have him here, and perhaps his greatest achievement was raising 5 adopted children as a single parent. He now has 3 step-grandchildren, and one at North High School, and one who is 18 months old, so he's spanning the spectrum. So without further ado, please welcome.
That's my few minutes. Thanks for leaving off the felonies. If you've the least bit impressed with what you just heard, also understand that I've agreed to kiss a pig at Royal View if the students hit a certain goal for United Way. Kim Cantwell and I are both going to kiss pigs. We have to decide what the goal would be. I'm thinking $1 million. I don't know. Think about that, though. We can do that. A while back, last winter, the dead of winter on a Friday night, I got a text message from my second oldest son. He's the one who's married and has one grandchild of mine, and he's got the second one's on the way today or tomorrow, as a matter of fact. And then he has the 3 stepchildren. And he texted me and said they're taking Jaden to the hospital. They called the ambulance. He fell out of the shower. And I said, Jaden's 3. He's going to be fine. He said, we're screaming. And I texted, he screams all the time. He'll be fine. Well, they took him to the hospital anyway. So he texted back that Mary went to the hospital with him. And you have to understand they're living in Cleveland, in Ohio City, on the near west side. And he texted that Mary left in the ambulance, and he's bundling the kids up, and they're going to walk to Metro General because he's going to carry Jaden home because they don't have a car. And I texted back, you're walking down Lorraine Avenue and West 25th at midnight with our kids. Are you nuts? And so I called him up, and I'm yelling at him on the phone. And as I'm going, what the heck's wrong with you? Why would you do this? This isn't Bay Ridge and Willoughby. What are you thinking here, dude? And as the words are coming out of my mouth, I'm thinking, what an idiot. That must sound like idiot parent of the year. And so I said, look, just leave the kids there. I'll be right there. I'll go to Metro General and I'll bring Mary back. So at midnight, I drove to the hospital. Jaden was okay. We brought Mary back. But I laid in bed when I got home at 2:30 in the morning. I realized I got to get them out of there. So I bought them a house in Willoughby. And so they moved from a one-bedroom apartment that was horrible to a 4-bedroom house with a 3 bathrooms, a big backyard, a big recreation room. And I think the kids think they're living in Willoughby's answer to Downton Abbey after they moved from Ohio City. But the real quality of life issue for them was not just the house, but it's also that Nicholas enrolled in the first part of May when they moved into Willoughby. And it was a whole new change for him from going to a Cleveland Municipal School to Willoughby Elementary. He came home and he said, he told his mom, the kids are really nice there. And he was kind of bullied in the school that he was at, and the kids used to call him the white boy all the time in his class. Hardly anybody calls him that at Willoughby anymore, but needless to say, he really enjoyed the school. He liked this teacher. He said that Grandpa said he's going to try to get me a really old, mean teacher. My teacher really isn't that mean and that old. So she's probably in her late 20s. And then Skylar started school there this year as well, and really enjoys going to school. And so their quality of life increased. Now there's two things that people say when you look at the research for why people move into a neighborhood. And there's two reasons, and the first one you already know because you're here for that, and it is the school. Absolutely, the school. The second one you may not get right on your first guess. What's the second reason? Parks and recreation. Yep. Safety comes somewhere down the road, and the reason for that is if you have good schools and you have good parks and recreation, you almost always will have safety, because the community members are engaged in the community because of the top two reasons, and that's important to us. So when the school district talks about why we should, why you matter to the school district and the school district matters to us, that's the reason. There's a symbiotic relationship there. That if the school system isn't successful, either will the city of Willoughby, Willoughby, or Eastlake. We need to have a successful school district. And vice versa. If the three cities are heading on down the tubes, so will the school district. So it's a partnership. We work together. As Kim and John know, I'm at Willoughby all the time because I look at those kids and I think, those are my kids. Those are my residents. And so I owe them, and it's the teacher background in me as well, but I owe them my support and anything I can do to help to make them successful as well. I think that's really important to us. Now, we've done a few things at the middle school as well. Middle school is a little more challenging. The problem with Willoughby Middle School is that it has middle school kids inside of it. If they get them out of there, he's such a great guy. No problems. But and then when they get to North, by the time they're in 10th grade, they get normal again. So that's kind of a good thing. So the schools and our parks and recreation are so important to this community. And if you think that isn't borne out in the numbers, think about this. Back in 2003, 2004, 2005, we knew in the city of Willoughby that 200 homes a year would sell. And the price of homes went up 4% a year, every single year. So when we were building a budget for when we looked at the third triennium after 3 years, we knew that our property value, our property tax revenue would go up 13 to 14%. So it would go straight up, straight up, and we knew that. Then the market crashed. The housing market went down the tubes for the entire country, entire world, and then things got difficult for all of us and difficult for the school system as well. Things are starting to turn around, and I can show you that because in 2013, 197 homes turned over in the city of Willoughby, and that's to people with one last name to a different last name. It's not from a one last name to a bank or a last name to the same last name. Those are divorces or deaths. It's one last name to a different last name. Those are new families moving in. Again, they're looking at the schools, and they're looking at our parks and recreation, and that's why they move here. The trend for 2014 is about the same. As of today, 116 homes have changed ownership, and that was actually till the first part of September. That's going to continue, I'm sure, by the end of the year, and we're looking at between 180 and 200 homes going to new families also. And these are going to be hopefully young families that will invest themselves into the community. We're also doing something that's kind of different. I've never seen it done, and so we're kind of flying blind here. I'm working with the Lake Geauga Area Association of Realtors and with the Key Bank, and we're going to do a House Hunters Willoughby, where we're going to bring together buyers into our community center. We're going to feed them. If you feed them, they'll come. And then we're going to go on bus trips to visit homes that are for sale in Willoughby, encouraging them to move here. As part of the presentation, we're going to ask somebody from the school district, somebody from the library, our recreation director, our building inspector, all to speak about the amenities of the community and why you should live here and why you should move here. And that's going to be really important. And then they'll go on their trips and visit homes. And we're hopeful that we can even sell more homes that way, because we have a vested interest in not having empty homes, and the school district has a vested interest in having quality families living in their district. The other thing that's happening in our city that's exciting is Willow Beach. It's going to be a senior apartment complex, and we're getting phone calls almost daily from people that want to move in there. Now, you might think, well, that really doesn't relate to the schools. Well, my guess is half the people who live there will be Willow residents that will move out of their houses and into Willow Beach, because that's the phone calls we're getting. They'll be in Willow Beach. That means 25 solid homes that have been well maintained for years go on the market for more young families going in. So we're kind of excited about that as well, to do that on our lakefront part of the community. So we continue moving in that same direction. So when we get this development done and more people and more kids into the school system, you and I could have more conversations about how there's really nothing we can do about the parking at Royalview. Yeah. They want me to make Royalview one way for a half an hour every day. That's what the parents want. Really? So I don't think so. And you know, the other thing that was exciting for us is that Movado, it's a online search company for real estate. If you look at Movado and you check their website, you'll find that they rated Willoughby as the 3rd best city in Ohio to live in. Actually, it's 4th best. Wycliffe and Willoughby were in the top 10 as well. So it's not just us, but we were, I think, 3rd or 4th. And one of the reasons was, again, our average temperature. I thought, okay, we won't say anything about that, because when I was reading the article, I thought, man, it's a blizzard outside. And okay, yeah, it's always 71 degrees. The average temperature is about 70-some degrees in Willoughby, they were saying, and Willoughby and in Wycliffe. But they also talked about the schools, and they also talked about our amenities in the community. Secondly, the Cleveland Magazine usually year after year ranks us in the 3rd out of 37 what they call, quote, best bargain burbs. That's suburbs that have an average price of a home below $133,000. And they ranked us 3rd because of our schools, because of our community amenities and so on. And again, we've got to do this together. You know, we don't work in a vacuum. I think that the job that Steve and I both do is pretty similar in many respects. So I've got to support him, and I would hope that he would support me. But it's all one part of one community. At the risk of sounding like Hillary Clinton, it does take the whole village to do that. So, so again, and for those of you that teach at Royalview and Willow Middle, thank you for what you do for my kids. And if for those of you that are at North High, good luck with Haley. She's 9th grade going on 30. But I thank you for all your efforts and look forward to continuing working with you. Thanks.
One of our key efforts is to improve communication with the community. If you would ask, I think, any superintendent, what is your greatest challenge? They wouldn't tell you finances. They wouldn't tell you building facilities. They wouldn't tell you union issues. It would be none of those things. How do you effectively communicate with thousands and thousands of people? And it's very, very difficult to do. But we are trying to make efforts, and I hope those efforts are being noticed. We changed our website, which the goal on the change of our website, beyond making it look fresh, was that you can reach anything on our website within 3 clicks. So we're constantly working to improve it, but that is our goal, that you can find what you are looking for within 3 clicks. We're sending out quarterly and monthly newsletters. That's an example of one. We have on our website, Check-In with the Soup. This week's Check-In with the Soup, if you haven't checked it out, I would encourage you to do it. It is an interview with the homecoming court from North High School, and those kids are really, truly impressive. So it's about 13 minutes long, which usually they're 3 minutes long, but the kids were on a roll, so what are you going to do? Our dial-out system is the system that allows us to send out mass emails, mass texts, or mass phone calls. I can do it from my cell phone, from anywhere. I can do it from Florida. And it sends out, makes all those calls. We have about 9,800 phone numbers, emails, and I can send out an e-blast and communicate to the community in about 18 minutes. All those calls will be completed. So if you're not signed up on our system, we'll have people out back in the rear that will help you if you'd like to be part of that system. Additionally, we're trying to move into social media. We have a Facebook page. We have a district Twitter account. And then I have a Twitter account. So what we're trying to focus on is our students, trying to get out information about the things and the accomplishments of our students and of our teachers. Facilities is a great challenge for us, as you all know. The OSFC, the Ohio Schools Facilities Commission, did a report on our schools, and we have couple $100 million in repairs that need to be made. In fact, the OSFC report completed in 2010 said we should do what? Demolish every single building. Well, that's not possible at all. Not possible at all. But I'd like to show you a video that kind of gives you an idea of some of the things that have been done across the district.
What I love about the new construction at North is the bright orange walls and the new big windows in the cafeteria that let the sunlight in. I also love the new weight room because cheerleaders can benefit from it, as well as the football team, baseball players, and other sports. And also the Willoughby-Eastlake staff makes me feel me and my friends safe.
come true. Someday wish upon a star, wake up with clouds up far behind.
This is Kennedy, if you don't recognize it.
High above the chimney top, that's where you find me, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, dream that you did to why can't I? Oh, someday wish upon a star, wake up with the clouds up far behind. Your trouble melts like a lemon drop, high above the chimney top, that's where you find me, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. The dream that you did to why can't
I'm Sam Solomon. I'm a senior at South High School. So I was here to experience all the construction that we had here. My personal favorite of what was done at the school was the theater, what was done to the theater. This was known as the LGI, large group instruction, and that's what it was. We had study halls with crappy chairs that were falling off. It was dirty, and it didn't represent South's theater program as well as it should. Now that we've revamped everything, it's now known as the theater to the students. This is where we can come and, you know, put on an excellent place for the community and for our school and represent South High the best we can. I also really enjoyed the renovations to the football field, especially for the student section. This year's school spirit is higher than I've ever seen it. So with those old bleachers, I'm pretty sure the student section would have fallen through those old bleachers with how bumping it gets up there. So I thank you very much for all the construction. It really matters to us. We matter.
So how are all those projects funded? First and foremost, we took the budget and reallocated resources. And we'll talk about later in the slides under finances, where did that money come from in terms of the actual reallocation of resources. But it came, large chunk of it came right from the existing budget, just prioritizing different things. The second contributor to being able to do roofs, windows, and doors came from a provision in law called House Bill 264. House Bill 264 allow the state fronts the money for you to do projects that have energy conservation, as long as the payback for that change in window, change in HVAC system, change in roof pays off itself within 15 years. And last, in 2010, we passed a bond issue for $22 million in what was called Qualified School Construction Bond resources. It was prior to my arrival. I give Dr. Miller great kudos for that, because that at least gave us a chunk of money. 22 million sounds like a lot. To do all of the district, we're probably at somewhere around 200 million, but 22 million was a great start, and it allowed us to do the renovations that you see here at South High School. Primarily came from Qualified School Construction Bond money. So there was no increase in taxes in order to do all the renovations. That's the point of that slide. I'd like to introduce Mr. Steve Nedlick. He is our Director of Operations and Security. He's done a fantastic job. He is a North graduate, and he's going to walk you through the things that we're doing to try and enhance safety for our students and staff. Mr. Nedley.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. First off, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out this evening. What I would like to talk a little bit about is what the district, we set out in January with really a three-part approach to security and how it impacted our campuses. First off, we wanted to update all of our building floor plans, all of our maps, and our emergency operations plan, both of which have been a little bit outdated. We wanted to come back with fresh eyes, take a look at that process, and renovate and reestablish that. The second one was to develop a visitor management system and or protocols that we can utilize in all of our school buildings to tighten up that point of entry to the buildings on a day-to-day basis. There are a lot of visitors that come to various buildings for a lot of different reasons. So we're all speaking the same language and doing the same things, and I'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. But we also wanted to increase our local and countywide response with law enforcement. So the first step, we updated all campus floor plans and included all vital information. We did this by partnering with Navigate Prepared. This platform provides us a digital floor plan for all of our school buildings. Every space in every building has been photographed and documented and is digitally put up on our screen. What you're seeing here is a screenshot of the various buildings that you can identify room by room, area by area, what that will look like. The interesting part about the plan is you can, we have all the icons that represent fire pole stations, AEDs, emergency power shutoffs, our water sources, any roof access, where the gas comes into the building, and all that vital information that's so important for any type of first responder that's coming to the building, and for staff alike to know what our next steps will be to remedy anything that will be coming through. As I mentioned, the floor plans also include 365 degrees pictures. So when you tap on the icon, it would show you this room in full 360. You can know exactly what the room looks like. If I'm a first responder coming to the school from my patrol car, I can be looking at the floor plan for the school, get a screenshot of our Navigate system, direct themselves right to the room in question. So before they come in, they know what the room looks like that they're going to be entering prior to. Second piece of, you did tell me.
I think you're a few slides behind.
There we go. The other piece to this very important first step was to, I'm sorry, there's our 360 view. Every single classroom and every single building in the district has this taken of it. It'll have a doorway shot that'll identify the door number, and the next picture next to it will have an exact shot of what the building, what that space looked like when that picture was taken. Second piece was our emergency management plan. And I would like to thank, we had a variety of people involved all spring. They got together, both administrators, staff persons, secretaries, cafeteria workers, custodians, all came to our security and safety meetings to have some say in what this document was going to look like. Every school prior to this school year had an operations plan for their specific building. What we wanted to do is open it up as a district, again, speaking the same language, having the same protocols in place. So we pulled all these folks together and we chunked it off into sections. And I have to commend a lot of hard work by a lot of folks. We created a 152-page document that talks about everything from a power shortage to armed intruders, blood pathogens, anything that we could encounter in the school district. And it gives us a template on how to respond to that. So as administrators who have access to this plan, they can tab right on the side of the screen, go directly to the icon that is that particular situation, click on it, and follow the protocols. And everybody's on the same page. We all are speaking the same language. The interesting part about the Navigate features and what's provided to us is our local police departments, fire departments all have access to this in real time. They can bring this up in their dispatch centers, see all this information. They have access to any IP address camera in any one of our buildings and pull that up in a live situation to see what's happening in our facilities. And on top of that, the Lake County Emergency Operations Center and Mentor has access to this screen as well. So there's a lot of people that have been a part of the process and a lot of people who have can benefit from having this information. The next piece of the three, piece number 2, is our visitor control management system. What we have done across the district is take a look at how people enter and exit the building and how we're keeping track of those people when they come in. This year we are piloting a program, software program called Raptor. And what Raptor does is it requires an Ohio driver's license or any state issued ID. That ID gets swiped. And when they come into the office area to come in, it is that information on your barcode on your driver's license or state ID is going to be checked against criminal database. And it has a heavy emphasis on sexual predators, etc. And what that does is it vets that visitor when they come in. So once we go through the vetting process, the picture is taken directly from your driver's license and created a sticker badge for you. It's also going to list exactly where in the building you're going to be going. So if you're here at North High School and you're going to go see Mr. Lyons, it's going to say your name, your picture, you're going to see Mr. Lyons. So if you are seen traveling anywhere else in the building, staff persons are asked to redirect you back to where you're going. So it's a nice piece that we have. The next part of it is that it logs you in digitally, and then when you leave, you take your sticker badge back off, you scan it at the barcode, and it logs you out of the system. So we can keep record of how many times so-and-so has been in the building. If we have an incident where we evacuate the building, we can retrieve this information both at the desktop and also mobilely from anywhere else in the district to pull up who is in the building on top of all of our students. We can account for folks who are here. So again, that piece is being piloted in both high schools at this time. So, on top of the visitor control management piece, we've also created bullpens or staging areas for visitors. I call them a bullpen because it captures those folks before they are vetted. They come into the school area, they have one place to go, they don't have access across the spectrum of the building. We have added 3 additional bullpens this school year, and we'll continue the process until all schools have an area to manage and vet those visitors prior to providing access to the school. I think there are a total of 6 buildings that are completed this time, and we're moving west to east, trying to tackle. Some of our buildings are older, and they provide us some challenges in getting this accomplished. That gives you a sense of where we're headed in the very near future.
Prior to that being built, you know, the doors are just to the right of that tree. You would be in with the students. Those second set of doors is what he's describing, and those are buzzered. So you have to turn to your left, go enter into the Raptor system, sign in, and then the secretary buzzes you in those doors. And they're set on timers to log after so many minutes after the bell rings in the morning.
The last piece, and this talks to our responsiveness with local law enforcement, is the Marks radio system. It's a multi-agency radio communication system, and every school district in Lake County has one of these devices in every single school building. What this provides you is an immediate direct access to emergency personnel. This will give you, when that emergency button on the right, right there, when that is engaged, immediate notification goes to that local police department and also to the Lake County Emergency Operations Center. And the way it was explained to us during our training, and I know the principals had the training prior to the school year, the Lake County world is coming to your site. It's going to increase when seconds do really matter, and in this particular case, this button will only be activated during an armed intruder into our school building. When that button is activated, the resources of the entire county are coming to your school location. So we had them installed prior to the start of the school year. There are still some strobes that are going to be added to this device. So when it is activated, sometimes at the offices, especially in the mornings with substitutes coming in and out, there's a lot of noise and confusion. The strobe you will not miss. It will blind you and you'll know that the device is going on. So if anyone in the county depresses that emergency operations button, any one of our school buildings will hear it. And at that point, we're silent. We don't entertain any kind of dialogue. When the button is depressed, you have 10 seconds of open air time. So you don't need to even touch the hand device to speak into it. The mic is wide open for that secretary, that administrator to say. They don't need to say what building they're from. They just need to report how many people and where in the building are they. After that particular time, your role is done. Find safety. If you are in a safe place, they can continue to communicate via the hand microphone. But it's a very important piece. And on top of that, the dialogue that went into this rollout was pretty exciting because local police and fire officials were all a part of this, with school personnel as well. So on top of having this tremendous tool, the protocols and the dialogue from across the county were in sync now. Hopefully this will never have to be engaged, but there is a significant plan in place, and it's a nice piece to our system. So 3 major things got accomplished since January. There's a lot more to be done, but we got ourselves started on a good day. Thank you very much.
What Mr. Nedlick didn't talk about is our ALICE training with our teachers, which is a totally different way to confront an intruder. We've accomplished that, and now we're in the process of engaging our students, correct?
We are first going to have 2 community nights to basically similar format to explain the process before we roll it out to student training. So moms and dads and caregivers, if they have any questions, those folks can answer those questions. And then we hope to have all of our students trained by the end of January. The community information nights are tentatively scheduled for the 18th and 20th of November. And we'll be pushing that information out. So look for that and feel free to come and ask questions.
Steve's done an excellent job. Thanks a lot, Steve. Obviously, academic achievement, academic progress is our top priority. Certainly, keeping students safe actually is probably our top priority, right? But beyond that, our mission, our goal is to educate students. And that's why we're here. So our overarching goal has been to improve student achievement. This has been our set of goals now heading into our 2nd year by keeping students first, ensuring that we have the best quality of instruction that we can possibly have in the classroom, and that we use every minute of our class periods. If you think about just even taking 5 minutes off, when you extrapolate that over a whole day, 5 minutes on a period, and then times that by a week, then times that by a school year, it's a significant amount of time. And I really believe that our teachers have really responded, and that you will see when you walk into the schools. Mr. Murphy and I do it. We walk around the schools and we just make check marks of county classrooms that are engaged. And we are almost always, some buildings at 100%, but I think our lowest is 96 or 97% of the staff. And there may have been a really good reason that teacher wasn't engaged, but we weren't even stopping. We were just moving, trying to get to as many classrooms as we could. So that's been really, really refreshing to see that. So those were our goals. Was it impactful? You have to measure it some way. So we measure it. I believe this section of the state report card says it all. It measures academic progress. It's out there. You can access all this information on the ODE website. But in 2012, 2013, we're going to letter grades now. It's not excellent with distinction, and all that's gone now. It's all letter grades. And for our gifted students, we received a D. For students with disabilities, those would be our students on IEPs, received a B. For our lowest achieving students, in other words, regardless of your scores, in every school, they take that bottom 20% and they measure those kids. And we received a C on that, on that student population group, and overall we received a B. So we looked at that and we thought, wow, that's not where we want to be. Those letters say to me mediocrity. And I don't think that that's what Willoughby-Eastlake City Schools has become to be known, and it's certainly not how we want to be known. And I give the credit. It's not central office administrators. They work hard, and we try to give teachers the resources. It's not even building principals. Where's the building principal? Sorry, Brian. It is the teachers in the trenches that are getting it done. Gifted students went from a D to a B. Our students with disabilities, an A. Our lowest achieving students, an A. And overall, an A. Now that, my friends, that's getting the job done. School districts are also comprised of what are called subgroups, and you're measured individually on your subgroups. Our subgroups are growing. We have traditional subgroups, IEPs, students on IEPs. Every school district has those students across the state. That is a subgroup in every school district in the state of Ohio. Our subgroup, our two other large subgroups are and this number is growing, unfortunately. That's our students on free and reduced lunch. And then our subgroup of minority students, which in 2000, we had less than 1% minority students in Willoughby-Eastlake City Schools. Today, we have nearly 20% of our students are minority students. So it's a changing, growing demographic. So how do we do in those groups? They drive your state report cards. African-American students, these are percentage of students who are proficient. African-American students who are proficient. 12, 13, 67.6. That is certainly not clipping where our Caucasian students are. We put a lot of focus on trying to reach our minority students. And here's what we've discovered, and I think our elementary principals would echo this. If we can keep our kids from being transient, our teachers get the job done. It's just they got to keep them. We got to keep them. 2013-14, 73.6%. That's an incredible gain in one school year. Economically disadvantaged, probably the most difficult group to work with in terms of moving numbers. 94.2 on the performance index. This is a number that ranges from 0 to 120. 94.2 for economically disadvantaged in 12-13, 95.3, 13-14. So again, great improvement. And our kids on IEPs, again, that represents about 14% of our student population. Tough group to move. On the performance index, 77.5 to 79.7. All three subgroups improving. That's why you see those grades reflected in A, B, overall A. And I would challenge you to find any school district in the state of Ohio that can rival what we're doing here in Willoughby-Eastlake City Schools. Great job, teachers and students. The index score is the mecca of them all. If you looked at one thing, this is what you would look at. This is the one number that they print in the newspaper. Reaching a 100 index score is pretty much where the elite schools are, and everybody below 100 is scrambling to try to get to a 100 on their index score. Last year we were at 99.8, which was so disappointing because we were so close. So close. And then we moved to a 101.3. Again, now I will tell you that we're doing this, and we're going to get to this in a minute, we're doing this with a lot less staff. So think about that as well. So I guess the question is, the original question, are we succeeding academically? And I think resoundingly the answer is yes. We have the data to support. It's not Steve Thompson up here telling you that we're doing great with no data to support it. The data clearly speaks for itself. Community service is a component. We're trying to build well-rounded students, and we think it's important for our students to give back to the community. I'd like to introduce Mr. Charles Murphy. Chuck is the assistant superintendent here in the district, and he's going to just walk you through briefly some of the things that our students are doing, and it is just a smattering of what they're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Good evening, everyone. Well, normally after seeing some slides that we just saw, you think, how do you top that, right? I mean, that was outstanding. But the good news is, I don't know about topping it, but we have some other very impressive things to share with you in terms of what our students are doing. And they're doing those things, again, under the guidance and leadership of our staff. And I think that's a very important thing to keep in mind as you look at these accomplishments. These don't happen on their own. They don't happen by themselves. And the other piece to keep in mind is these also happen because of all of you. So we are very fortunate to get students that come from very caring families that understand much of what Mayor Bondi was saying in terms of the importance of a good community, a strong community. And so, you know, we try to make sure that our students understand that our community does matter and that they have a very important role in seeing that our community matters. And so we try not to only instill reading, writing, and arithmetic, and all the other good academic things that we love to do and should be doing and are doing, but also to talk about this whole community service piece and what a difference they can make. It's very important that our students understand that they can make a difference and that their work and their effort really can affect the quality of life in a community. So what I put together here are just a few things that our staff and students are doing in the community to make a difference. And there's probably something from every school in the district. In fact, all of our schools have different groups and organizations led by staff members that they're getting involved in the community and helping others. And some of it is raising money, but others is just flat out helping others. Some of it's sweat equity, rolling up their sleeves, getting involved. So here they are. Pen pals with Breckenridge Village Community. And I didn't put the schools on here because many of these things multiple schools are doing. But we work very closely with Breckenridge, and I had the pleasure of speaking with them, and they absolutely love hearing from our students. We raised over $10,000 for autism research through a 12-hour dance-a-thon. I can't even imagine participating in that. Students serve dinners around the holidays and hospice, and you know, we all know what a difference that can make. Making holiday cards for sailors and Marines overseas. I laugh at that because our superintendent is a Marine, and you know, I had to make sure that that was in bold, and I failed to do that, but luckily he fixed that. I caught it. We had students participate in the Wounded Warrior Project. We've had students raise over $12,000 for the Western Lake County American Cancer Society through a Relay for Life team. Our students at the Career Academy have refurbished the World War I cannon in Point Park and many other projects. They take on a different project every year, actually, and so that's just one example. And adopted Salvation Army Angels. We have also donated over 800 items to a Willoughby-Eastlake food pantry, and that's just one school, one time. So again, multiple things from multiple schools. That's just to give you a flavor of what our staff and students are doing to help.
Last section, just to wrap up with, you know, where are we from a financial perspective? You may or may not remember that that was the projections in 2011, which happened to be the year that I was hired. I don't know if that is by design or not, but it is what happened. We had $2.4 million in reserves, which is very, very little. And then by 2016, we faced an $87.9 million deficit. So how did we dig out of that hole? We reduced 136 staff positions. 50 of those were teaching positions. How did we reduce teaching positions without impacting student class offerings? All of our teachers, or almost all of our teachers in grades 7 through 12, took on an additional period, and oh, by the way, they got a pay cut to do that. Changes in employee health care coverage, that's where the reduction comes in. The staff went from 2.5% employee share to roughly 22% employee share. I would submit to you that that's fair, because that's not, 2.5% is not reflective of reality in the private sector, and we're asking private sector people to pass levies to support us. We went to the teachers, and I have to tell you, you look around at all the schools that have been Strongsville, who just finished the strike, Reynoldsburg, and Cuyahoga Heights is now threatening a strike on Thursday because they only got a 1% pay raise. Folks, for 5 years, our teachers got zeros. Their employee share on average, because of the increase in their employee share on healthcare, most people took roughly an 8% pay cut. And then this year, then on a 3-year deal that we just inked last year, we're at 0.75% increase this school year, 1% increase the following school year, 0 the third. Does that sound like a greedy bunch of public sector employees? I don't think so. In totality, what did that save? Those 4 areas save almost $13 million per year off the budget. So when you see these other things being done, that's what I'm referencing. Building cash reserves with this money and doing some much needed projects across the district. But that's not all that we did. In 2015, this school year, we outsourced the management of food service. We have a guaranteed contract for a savings of $160,000. We closed an elementary, opened up a central warehouse. We took away the funds to the athletic departments, the House Bill 264 projects that I mentioned before. That's a savings of $455,000 a year. And we opened Kennedy Academy, which you saw the renovations of that project, and we're saving roughly $600,000 a year. How? We were paying for private education for those students to be outsourced. Those are special needs students. They are no longer outsourced. They're educated in-house by our teachers, which I think even our parents would resonate with this. It's a beautiful facility, better teachers, more professional teachers, and we're doing it at a significantly reduced rate. That's a total of roughly $14.5 million a year off the budget. So how does that manifest itself into a 5-year forecast? Remember 2016, that's the orange one. What was that deficit previously? $87.9 million deficit is now a $13.6 million carryover. We project to be off the ballot through 2020. We will have to go back on the ballot in 2020, and you might ask, well, why don't you cut deeper? We could, but now we start significantly impacting course offerings, programs, and we can't be excellent like we are and not fund our schools. We have to adequately fund our schools. This 5-year forecast is predicated on this renewal levy in November passing. So, of course, that begs the question, what if the levy failed? What impact would that have on us financially? And it's a pretty significant impact. So by 2019, instead of having a $5.5 million carryover, we now have almost a $21 million deficit. Folks, there's nothing left to cut. I think we've been very out of the box in flipping our revenue situation or our expenditure situation. But we've outsourced transportation. We've done a multitude of things that a lot of school districts aren't willing to take on, and we've done it. And our unions and our teachers and our custodians and everybody have all shared sacrifice in making this happen, and our community's been supportive. And I ask that we not make this our reality.
Maggie, I'm captain of the Rebel football team, and what matters most to me is my school, my teachers, my community.
Family, and I'm a band dad here at Willoughby-Eastlake High School. I work on the truck and the pit crew with the bands, and the reason why it matters to me is I get to watch the kids grow from the beginning of the season to the end, and it's really enjoyable to watch the kids have fun and have a good time.
I'm Rich Bondi, the mayor of the city of Willoughby. The Willoughby-Eastlake City Schools certainly matter to the city of Willoughby as well as to my own family. Some of my sons graduated from the Willoughby-Eastlake schools and got a quality education, and 2 of my 3 grandchildren are currently attending Willoughby-Eastlake schools. The school system also matters deeply to the community of the city of Willoughby, not only for its sense of community and its outstanding educational opportunities, but also because people move here because of the school and because of parks and recreation. Last year, we were blessed that we had 197 new families move into the city of Willoughby, and in 2014, that number looks like it will be even higher. Those people are moving here because of the school district as well as the amenities of the community. So we thank the Willoughby-Eastlake schools for the outstanding job they do for our kids, and we want them to know that they really matter.
Hi, I'm Willoughby Mayor David Anderson. You know, my father was born and raised in Willoughby, graduated from Willoughby Union High School, got married, and chose to live and raise his family in Willoughby. I graduated from Willoughby South High School, as did my wife, Donna. We chose to live in Willoughby and raise our family in Willoughby. And both of our boys, Dan and Eric, both graduated from Willoughby South High School. Both chose to live in Willoughby and to raise their families in Willoughby. And so 4 generations of Andersons are going through the Willoughby-Eastlake school system. My whole family has chosen to live in Willoughby because of the quality of the community and the quality of the school system. Those two are inexorably tied together. And that's why, to my entire family, Willoughby-Eastlake schools matter.
Willoughby-Eastlake matters to me because of the band program that's opened me up to so many opportunities, that's given me a place to go when I don't know where else to go, that's given me friends and taken me all over the state of Ohio. The drama program, we're having a musical this year, and it's just going to give every kid an opportunity to do something that they like to do, whether it's set, makeup, hair, on stage. Everybody has a chance to do something. And the teachers that have enriched my life and led me and gave me a good path in the last 4 years, I know I matter to Willoughby-Eastlake. We matter.
Well, my name is Mike Bell, proud member of the Willoughby-Eastlake City Schools, and I want to let you know that you do matter. You matter to me because you're significant, and you have the opportunity to add value to the lives of those around you.
In conclusion, again, thank you very much for coming. I sincerely appreciate you taking time out of your evening to be here. But to wrap up the state of the schools, I believe that we've made significant strides in improving communication and transparency. Do we need to do more? Yes. But we're doing, I believe, moving in the right direction in terms of trying to keep people informed. Taking on facilities is a difficult task because they are in such a state of disrepair across the entire district. And we have very limited funds in which to address those needs. You know, if you on your house, don't you just hate putting a roof on your house? You know, it costs thousands and thousands of dollars to put a roof on your house, and no one would even know when they pulled in your driveway that you put a new roof on your house, but it cost you $5,000 or $7,000 or $10,000 to put a roof on. Roofs on these school buildings are near $3 million on the bigger buildings. It's significant. But we still made great strides in enhancing our facilities. Our academic achievements on the rise. It's the highest it's been in a number of years. And that is what's so significant about that I really want you to take away from that is we are defying the odds. And why is that? In 2000, we had less than 1% minority population, today 20%. That tells you scores should go down because that's statistically true. We also know that as poverty rises, what happens to test scores? They decline. We know that. In 2000, our free and reduced lunch count was 14%. Today, our free and reduced lunch count is 42%. Yet our scores are rising. How is that possible? And I would tell you it's the work of our teachers and our staff making it happen, along with supportive parents. Don't even begin to forget about that, and kids who are buying in to doing well academically. And we are fiscally solvent. Since 1976, the advent of House Bill 920, House Bill 920 frees it prior to 1976. Our taxes increased with inflation. Well, those of you that were around in the 70s remember the gas lines and the high inflation. So they capped. Mayor Voinovich, who was a state senator then, proposed a piece of legislation that passed in Ohio that capped, didn't allow for growth on property tax anymore. Well, the end result of that has been, imagine in your life, Many of us have gone without pay raises, not just in public school, not just in our school, but in your own lives. And that's a reality. But you can't stay frozen at the same level in perpetuity. You can do it for a while, but you can't do it in perpetuity. And that's what House Bill 920 does. And that's why schools are always forced to be back on the ballot in some period of time. Prior to 2011, the longest run we had without asking for new money is 3 years. Our current forecast would push that to 8 or possibly 9 years without being back on the ballot for new money for the general operating. It doesn't talk about buildings. That buildings is a whole different. Bond issues are something totally separate from operating levies, but we are fiscally solvent for 8 or 9 years, which we've already exceeded the best since 1976 already. So I feel good about where we are as a school district, and at this point, if anybody has any questions, I will do the best I can to take your questions. I also want to be respectful of those that need to leave, and if you need to leave, please feel free to get up and leave, and the folks around you will slide back and let you exit out. Yes, sir.
I'm a little confused. In this morning's paper, a quote from you said that we won't be back on the ballot until 2020.
Right.
But we have, in the last few years, we've had lots of renewals. Are those going away, or?
No, that's a great question. Renewals do not go away. These are emergency operating levies. In my previous district, every levy that is passed is called a continuing operating levy. It continues forever. So they're on about a 5 or 6 year levy cycle because they pass 7.9 mil levies. Community supports it. They pass 7.9 mil levies, and they're continuing, so they never have to go and ask for it ever again. Where ours is different. Ours are small levies, and they're on 5. I believe one of them is a 10-year levy cycle. Where are you at? I believe one is a 10-year levy cycle. 4 are on a 5-year levy cycle. So that's why you get ballot. That's why we're on the ballot regularly, because we're renewing these levies that many school districts wouldn't be on the ballot for.
So do we have more? We have renewal in November.
You're right.
And then we don't have any more renewals?
We don't have a renewal. We're off the ballot for 3 years on renewals, and in 2017 we're back on the ballot for a renewal, and we start the 4-year run again. Renewal, 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 renewal. And the only way to get out of that is to convert those into 10-year emergency operating levies, or convert those to traditional property tax levies and go in perpetuity and continuing. But that hasn't proven to be something the community is interested in doing from the feedback that I've received.
If we pass new levies now, or if we don't pass a renewal and then we have to have a new levy to replace it, I understand we're going to lose the rollback. Do we lose the rollback if we go to a continuing levy?
Let me explain quickly what he said. In the 70s, a deal was essentially struck by the Ohio legislature, and the deal was they wanted income tax. So they said, okay, give us income tax, and we'll give you what's called a rollback. 12.5% of your property tax would be taken away from you as an individual and paid by the state. But of course you'd still lose money because you would pay income tax. It was a trade in the 70s. Well, that law's been changed. Any new levy, the rollback or the 12.5% that was coming from the state no longer will come. What that essentially means, for us to maintain the same funding levels, is going to cost you 12.5% more per mil for any new operating levies. So it would, from just a business perspective, it would make absolutely no sense to fail a levy renewal, because it's the best deal we can get for the money. If that makes sense. I hope that's clear and makes sense. Any other questions I can answer? Oh, that's great, I think. I'm not sure if that's good or bad. Yes, a smart class. Well, thank you very much for coming. Outside to your left are levy signs. If you don't have one and you're willing to put one in your yard, we would sincerely appreciate you taking one or taking 5 and canvassing your neighborhood. And yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm curious about upcoming renovations. Do we plans?
We are on our current. Your question was, do we have any plans for upcoming renovations? Mr. Nedlick spoke about the bullpens and upgrading those security across the district, but the funds from the qualified school construction bonds are spent. That money is spent. The House Bill 264s, we may have a little bit of space there, maybe a little bit of space, but not much. Yeah, it's pretty narrow. So the unfortunate reality is where we currently stand, we cannot do any major renovations with the current funding levels that we have.
So for a building like Willoughby, it'll be pretty much as full.
We did the roof. We did the roof at Royal View. Abated a hallway. Did some windows, and I believe we have the cafeteria budgeted. So we're going to redo the cafeteria this summer, correct? So that'll spruce up Royal View quite a bit because the cafeteria is an eyesore. If you've been in there, it's pretty rough. But major renovations like you see here at North High School, or you saw at South, or additions on Grant, or some of those buildings will not happen with current funding levels. Well, thank you very much for coming. I sincerely appreciate it. I will hang out if you want to ask me a question individually.